I want to thank Gabi for putting this together, and Amudim for giving us the forum to be able to talk in this kind of way. This is not the first time that myself and Rabbi Klivanoff and Rabbi Ismach have had the opportunity to talk through Zoom. Thank God we don't have to do it as much anymore. But yeah, I wanted to start this little session just to give everyone a sense of how this started. So I won't say which organization, but there was an organization that shall remain nameless that decided they were going to do a like one of these songs, the Minyan Man song, right? And they got different rabbis to do different clips of the Minyan Man song, right? Won't you stay with us for Shabbos Minyan Man? The truth is, I actually didn't even know it. I had to learn it. But either way, everyone sort of got a phrase to do. And the idea was that like, okay, shul is closed, it's COVID, it's depressing. So we figured, I guess they figured they want to make people more depressed by listening to rabbis with questionable voices. And I took it really seriously, and I did my thing, and I whatever. And then sure enough, like, I don't know, like a minute later, after it was posted, I think Sam has started this post-Minyan Man group, and they all started making fun of me.
Well, Rabbi Morgenstern, the world now is post-Minyan Man in so many ways. That was sort of like the pinnacle of the COVID experience, being stuck at home and being so desperate for information that like even a bunch of rabbis singing Minyan Man was interesting. And I feel like a lot of us, that was sort of the moment when I realized the world has changed so fundamentally. So, but thank you for that. I think we had a good time reacting, and now like it's a post-Minyan Man world.
And it still makes me laugh, so it's got to be worth it. But I'm not sure everybody knows here who we are, so we should probably introduce ourselves.
By all means.
Sam Klivanoff, Congregation Eitz Chaim in Livingston, New Jersey.
Shmuel Ismach, Young Israel of Grey Neck.
Jonathan Morgenstern, Young Israel of Scarsdale.
So we have the three major food groups represented, right? Like Westchester, Long Island, Northern New Jersey. So that's the center of
the tri-state area, right? Tri-state area, something like that.
I love it.
The center of the world, obviously.
Well, yeah. So
we
spent a lot of time. We spent a lot of time chatting online, virtually, and now, thank God, as Jonathan mentioned, in person during COVID, because we idea sharing and struggle sharing, but also kind of inspiration sharing. And I want to thank you two for really helping me get through, because it's been, it's rabbis are people too, apparently. And, we've had our challenges, but thank God we've shared a lot of good things. So this is a great opportunity for us to talk about kind of some of the things that, what worked for you? What was your highlight, so to speak, when there were many, many lowlights? The funerals and the shivas and the virtual everything can bring a person down. So there were so many times when the little bit of inspiration really, really helped. So, what worked for you guys?
I gotta say, the one thing that you left out, not just inspiration, but also just laughs, the ability to stop and reflect on what's going on, the absurdity of it all, and particularly in the positions that we were in communal positions where we're faced with things we've never really had to do before. You had rabbis doing Minyan Man songs, and like we were throwing spaghetti at a wall and trying to see what sticks programming wise. Nobody had ever had to do this before. And
You did a song.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I did.
With the guitar, yes.
I did like a Hanukkah song, an Adam Sandler style Hanukkah song for my shul in Grey Neck. It's available on YouTube, but you don't, whatever. It's there. But honestly, thank God I edited that, unlike yours, where I'm not sure who edited that. I'm kidding. Yours was great. But the humor and the ability to reflect with others about your experiences and balabatim, and to sort of try to brainstorm what the best solutions for things, that was invaluable to me. And there were a lot of big groups, right? There were a lot of big groups of rabbis that had formed on WhatsApp, and unfortunately, like, whenever you ask a question there, you're kind of in front of the masses. It's like asking the question in the big audience. But amongst a few guys, it was so beneficial to be able to just reflect or vent or to ask. And so, like, I was really appreciative of that.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually what I was gonna mention. The dafka, like for me, I remember probably one of the best moments for me in the most difficult times of COVID was when I exited a certain WhatsApp group. No offense to the WhatsApp groups, because it was it was crazy. Because you know, you're right. It started in Rochelle, right, and we were like right next door, and we had a COVID Purim already, and we were doing this, and I was consulting with like Rabbi Willig, you know, literally like every step of the way, and I'm like, you know, I'd post on this WhatsApp group. Oh, I'll just to be helpful, you know, here, this is what we're doing, and people were pounding. What? You're not having a fully, you know, regular Megillah reading? What are you? What are you crazy? It was just, it was nuts. It was crazy. And I remember it was not a rabbi on this group. It was a great guy, and he just said, "John, you need to exit that group immediately." And that was like the best thing for me. But the reality was, I was very much on my own until post Minion Man came around. It was extremely helpful, and it's been amazing.
So if we could speak in Belashon, like HR of today's day and age, was this our safe space? Is that so we can,
I think it was.
Really, I found that those listserv groups and the WhatsApp groups are for people that have way too much time. And I think that when we got together, we had an immediate understanding of, you know, we have very different shuls. We have very different congregations, very different balabatim, but a lot of the same issues. And it doesn't matter how religious or more religious, how traditional, not traditional, whatever it might be, how big or small, that we found a lot of common ground. And for me, one of the highlights is actually when we were able to bring our respective lay leaders together to study together. I thought that was great. We had a 4-week Zoom session with Erica Brown, and I really enjoyed that, because it was nice to see, but it was good to see that other leaders kind of had the same struggles or the same, you know, grappling with the same issues. And, you know, we focused really on what brings us together, as opposed to, you know, well, you have this policy, you have that policy, whatever. But and like you said, you know, we could always laugh about it. So that's the great part about our group. And, you know, sometimes we chat a lot of the group. Sometimes, you know, we could go radio silence for a few days. But you know, it's like having a best friend you haven't seen in 25 years, and you can pick up right where you're left off. So that's what I appreciate about the group, about you guys.
Right. I mean, there was also that fundraiser that we did pretty well. The fundraiser for Load. Rabbi Morgenstern's idea, brought it to us. I'm like, hey, this is a great thing. One of the wonderful things about our shuls is that they're in 3 different regions, and you don't have any of that. Unfortunately, like, you know, there's competition, and there are different shuls in different neighborhoods. You don't want to do the exact same thing, and you want to be identifiably different and innovative on your own. And here there's like a safe space in a lot of ways. So I was always appreciative of that. And yeah, there were comments that I could make in this chat that I couldn't make anywhere else. I'm always nervous. Like somebody just the other day said, "Oh, I bumped into Rabbi Morgenstern. He says he knows you," and I like, what do you say? Like, what do you? I'm always a little bit nervous. Like, what do you?
Safe space, Shmuel. Safe space.
Yeah, I know. So like that's very reassuring for me.
Yeah, you know, Baruch Hashem. It's funny. Also, I remember one of the first thing. Like there were a bunch of halachic things that we ended up. It's more halakha, it's meta halakha, right? It's like minhag, or how this works, because we're in such uncharted territory, especially as we kind of came together, I would say, closer to the reopening, so to speak, and dealing with the several reopenings, right? That you had in these stages, how it worked. And it was really helpful. And it's, you know, you were saying with the big WhatsApp groups, there's more. There's judgment in every. It's like, oh, why are you doing this? Right? I remember one of the first things we talked about, I think, was we're davening outdoors on a Friday, and we're like, oh, should we say by Should we say Magen Avos? Sorry, should we say Magen Avos? You're judging. Should we say Magen Avos? I remember you brought in a source, and it's really helpful. We talked about Tachnun also. What are you doing with Tachnun, right? Yes, Tachnun, no Tachnun, right? There's our own or not, you know, that kind of thing. Are you going to go down for it? And, you know, and it just sort of, it continued along that. I remember actually, you told me, Sam, you reinforced to me that I think you said that growing up, did you do the Mass Aliyos when you were growing up or something, where you were for Simchas Torah?
Yeah.
And that's what we ended up doing for someone. By the way, we did it this year also. I love it. I love it. The guys that want to have like their own minion and and drink a lot and whatever, they didn't love it so much. But it's awesome. And again, you never would have known these things. Yes, there's a Mishnah Brewery. Yes, there are poskim, but Harbe Lamanati Mechav, our buddies, right? Mechavere. That's the way it goes.
I think I borrowed your Seder. If you remember, you did a concise Seder. This must have been really early, like the first.
So that was
Seder.
early. Yeah.
It was very early because I borrowed your Seder and I remember using it for some people who I really needed it, and it was great. You had put it together, and that sharing was very valuable. I mean, what would you guys say what were the harder things that you're going to take away from this in your shuls? Like what are the takeaways? I struggle with this all the time.
You mean like what did we do that we're going to keep, or?
Well, I guess the question is twofold. What programmatically, I have a few things that whether for better or for worse, I'm stuck with, and most of them are for better and they're good, and it means what it means to me. But I'm trying to figure out also from the other side, not just programmatically, like we as people, we as a shul, sort of what did we learn? I don't know. Do you guys speak to either of those things? Like what programmatically and what lesson wise do you think we're going to take away?
I mean, I think the Zoom is kind of here to stay. Every share that I give, that's not on Shabbos, I do both, which is very accommodating in one way, but it's super annoying in another way because it's hard to teach black boxes. For some reason, people don't want to put their screens on. Like at least put your camera on and pretend like you're listening while you're doing something else.
The famous story. There was like it's an infamous story in a place somewhere in Bergen County. Early on, and sorry I interrupted you, but this is funny. Early on in like whatever, and they did those Zoom Kabbalah Shabbos, the pre-Kabbalah Shabbos, whatever, and let's just say someone's screen was on that should not have been on. And all of a sudden, one of the rabbis gets up, and it was like that. It was bad. And the rabbi just goes, "Stop transmitting!" And they went like,
yeah. 2 words I learned very important. Mute all. but I long this. This. There's nothing like teaching in person. Even so, when you're doing a hybrid group, so you're looking at the camera and then you're looking. It's kind of just this morning I had a shiur like that. So it's valuable because look, honestly, there are people that are not ready to come back. I get that, but at the same time, it's and I don't know about you, but talking and teaching on Zoom is unbelievably exhausting. It's like I could give, if it's in person, give a shiur for an hour like nothing. Look, I'm probably also getting old. I am, but when you're on Zoom for a half an hour, I just feel like wiped. Do you guys feel that?
Yeah, it's like a mental, it messes with you. Just this morning, I have an early morning shiur that's on Zoom, and so like the Zoom, it's on my phone in the middle of the table. And I asked the question to the guys who were there. And then suddenly it's like as if God is speaking. As it was the funniest thing. A voice answers the question and everybody like jumps because the Zoom people never speak, right? They never speak, but they're unmuted. They're totally fine. It's only a few people. And then suddenly the answer comes from amidst the table. And it was such an experience. So the fact that more people can come is great. I find that my classes are now differentiated in that way, but it's difficult to really pay attention to teach in a classroom setting with both facing both directions. I find it very hard. What else are you going to stick with? I started a couple of programs that I start writing a Dvar Torah every Friday, which I think some people read, and therefore I feel like, how could I stop? And I never did that before. And some other things that I guess it's good. We were able to test ourselves, do different things in our shuls, and we were forced to adapt, and hopefully some of those are positive and long lasting. But like, I wonder about has your shul changed? Have the people changed? Was this once in a lifetime event life altering or not so much?
No comment. We've learned a lot. We had to learn new skills. Like I learned how to use YouTube. During writing was always, but during the height of COVID, when you think back to sort of March, April 2020, and I get hives, and I was doing video communication every day, sending out a video, because not everybody wants to sit and listen to you. So I'm like, you know what? If you record it, a less than 10-minute message every day, then and people will watch it or not watch it, watch how much of it they want. By the way, the analytics on YouTube are great. It tells you exactly the engagement, how many, who have for how long.
And when they stop listening.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
what it was that you said that I'm done here. We're done.
Diuk.
Yeah.
And also the great thing is what I was able to secure sponsorships. So we actually use it as a fundraiser for the shul, but that kind of morphed into, I had this feeling that, believe it or not, even in a shul, it's not the size of your shuls. Ben Zochet to have such a large shul. I'm a simple, humble shul in Livingston. But there are a number of congregants who don't know one another, believe it or not. And they're even more distant now. So I started this sort of interview thing, and we took it off, and it's called Riding with the Rabbi. So I drive people, and it started because I was like filming something with my kids in the car, but I take somebody in the car and I do an interview with them. And people are like lining up, like they can't wait to do it. And I did it not only with people in the shul, I did a couple in Israel. We once sponsored a fire truck in Israel, and I found the fire truck, and I got a ride on the fire truck with the guy in Israel in Hebrew, and we did this interview in Hebrew, which is hysterical. We got Hatzalah now in West Orange and Livingston. So you're like, by the way, now you know we've made it. We have Hatzalah. Just saying.
We don't have Hatzalah.
I'm just saying.
We're not there yet.
You need guys with keys, and then you'll be fine.
Do you have a pizza shop that sells sushi? Because like then you've arrived.
Nope. No. We have a pizza shop and a Chinese restaurant. It's terrible. Actually, it's one of the things that happened over COVID was there was someone who like kind of took over, like trying to show that kosher can actually work in Westchester, and has brought in, we have a Seasons, which is, that's fantastic, but, and whatever, and like little things. So he brings in actually every night, there's a different restaurant that delivers, somewhere from, in the Jewish civilization, not Westchester, that brings in every night. They deliver to our shul, and people they get burgers, they get Chinese, blah, 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 all that stuff. But I also
it's better than, by the way, I grew up there. So what you have now is still better than what I grew up with.
Yeah, no, thank God. We're getting
miles
there.
ahead.
We're getting there. But it's funny, that's what COVID will, ultimately that will morph, because the idea that this guy did to bring it in was to, look, it works, people want it. And I think it will ultimately turn into us getting something more than just pizza and an Eden Wok. No offense to pizza and Eden Wok and some bagels. But I also did the video stuff. I did something called the Daily Dose. It was like we made these WhatsApp groups, me and my associate Rabbi Klinger, and people signed up, whatever. I had like 200 people signed up for the WhatsApp, whatever. But I dropped the thing every day. It was like 3-4 minutes, kind of like, like what Sam said. And I found that I did not want to put it on YouTube because it was making me crazy, right? Like, oh my God, how many people are actually listening? How many? Because I was checking on WhatsApp, you could see a little bit. But the truth is, I had this little it was almost like a podcast starts with like some weird music, whatever. So I had a little like Matisio, whatever. Now that's RJM's Daily Dose. My daughter made this little, video stuff, and I would have literally like a little kid, a 4-year-old kid, saw me, and he started singing that song because his grandfather every morning was downloading Daily Dose, which is really nice. But it was impossible. I remember, Shmuel, you told me also you were doing something daily, right? And it was killing me. It was great. I did it that it would be finite. So I didn't want to make so it was like Aleph through Tuf. I did a different Pitkam kind of Mamar Chazal all the way through. And I did several, series of those. And then eventually I just can't do it anymore. But I think people enjoyed it. So maybe I would do a 3-week something or whatever. But we did morph. And I think this is here to stay. We're going to do, we call it the short board every Friday afternoon because we're too lazy to type. I like a 3.5 minute vort on the Parsha, and that we put on YouTube. And you're looking at still like 50, 60 views every week. We felt like, it's worth it. 50 or 60 people obviously we want them to come to Shul and hear us, but it's a really nice thing. And we're going to get it not just on YouTube. We're putting it now, hopefully on Instagram, on Twitter, whatever. And you'll make fun of that, and we'll start a new WhatsApp group.
They could be doing both. That's the thing. It's not. Yeah. It's no longer just for people who are at home. I mean, these were sweet spots we just hadn't realized that there was a desire for.
Yeah.
And this forced us to do that. I similar to what Sam's doing for bar mitzvahs. Like bar mitzvahs were terrible during COVID. If you had a bar mitzvah, I mean, forget it. Nobody got to do the whole spiel and the whole bar mitzvah boy in front of everybody. Bar mitzvahs, none of this stuff was really happening. And so I had like 15 bar mitzvahs last year, tremendous amount, the most bar mitzvahs we've ever had in a single year. And I figured, like, what am I going to do for these people? They have their own side minyanim. And so I started doing this interview thing with the kids, and it ended like I edited it so it'd be a little bit more funny. And you got like 65-year-olds who are just sitting and reading this because they're entertained by it. They never would have taken any sort of paid any attention to this kid, but now they are. So that's like here to stay, because we figured out other ways to magnify people and make a big deal about events that we had no choice. And so in a way, I think it was a great experience. I don't speak from the pulpit anymore. That my thing is like, in my shul, we used to like lift up the pulpit, and you're sort of like locked in behind that pulpit. And I always wondered, like, what would it be like to give a speech, like a TED talk, where you're walking around the bima, I'm not at the pulpit. So I said, like, how am I gonna do that? It's weird. So I used to like walk to one step here, 2 steps there. And then when COVID happened, so like the rules were like, you can't give a drasha yet. First, there's only shul, and then there's only a 2-minute drasha, and then there's only a 3-minute drasha. Not exactly sure scientifically what the difference was between the 2-minute and the 4-minute drasha, other than like, I guess nobody's got patience for a 4-minute drasha when we're just starting out. And so I never picked the pulpit up because I was signifying this is a short drasha. It's not the regular thing, and I haven't picked it up yet. I just haven't picked it up, and so like I'm walking around, and people tell me it's like, oh, it's more engaging, and they get to like track me around, and it's harder to fall asleep because they don't know if I'm walking in their direction or not. It's like a whole different chavaya.
And nobody's asking to pick up the pulpit yet, right?
Nobody has asked. And
that's the worst, is when like you don't do something, or like you gave up something and like nobody asked for it back.
Right, like Kiddush. Anybody doing Kiddush?
Like, yeah. Really? Okay, I got my Kiddush, and it's like you stop giving a certain shear, and like nobody said, yeah, how come I really missed that? Oh
yeah.
Guys, I had a guy I had someone who got like we stopped, oh, we're gonna go on a summer break for 3 weeks, whatever. And like there's one person who's like really upset by it, and person was really upset. I was like, no, it's okay. That happens. It's like, it's cool. But no one else was really upset. It was just one guy,
Yeah. But it's okay.
But what you mentioned about there is a lot of anxiety surrounding sort of the pressure of getting the production out, of putting out the material, keeping up with it, and also especially like who's really engaging with it, because we can see. I've learned to kind of tune it out. You think of Rishon Salanter's work, like even if you think you're going to change the whole world, you have to change yourself. I use it as a great tool for self-deprecating humor. Anybody who's on there, I'm like, listen, you have to go on my show because tens of people are going to watch this. Half of the views are my mother. I go to my mother's house, and somehow she figured out how to just play our shul's YouTube channel on a loop. So I go in, and she's in one room, and in the kitchen, it's just, I hear myself talking. I'm like, well, what's going on? But padding the numbers. That's what it's about. So does
that work? Same computer?
You gotta have a fan.
Oh wow! I didn't know you could do that. I thought it was like cookies or something. They know which computer it is, and you can't.
A certain amount of time, but but you can't get hung up. I get it. Look, we are human and we're vain, and we have egos. And when what we think is great, and not the whole world doesn't think it's great, it hurts. They don't recognize our greatness. It's hard. But in reality, that's not what we're in this for. So.
There's another thing too. I mean, it's not all about vanity. It's also, you have a certain amount of time, and you want to make sure that your time is focused on the most effective uses. Like, to have the class that only 2 people are listening to is probably not as effective a use of your time as the class that you have 100 people at. That's what I found with my podcast. Like with a 10-minute podcast, I'm reaching more people than I'm reaching with any class that I give. So it's definitely worth the investment, even if there's a sacrifice, the ability to do something else. So like, that was my take.
You remember a few weeks ago, we were talking about Shabbos Shuvah Drasha, about moving it to Shachris, right, as opposed to Mincha, because look, the reality is, for me, and I think Jonathan said the same thing, you'll just get a better audience at Shachris. And because I remember early on when I was smarter than anybody, I knew more than anybody, and I had an unbelievable Shabbos Shuvah Drasha that 7 people attended, and I felt like, what that's an awful feeling. But then again, it's a little humility. It's good to learn also. But you have to roll with it. You have to learn and see like kind of what works and know your audience. So it's also where this is helpful. When someone else has the same issue. We always have I spent my young rabbinic career, let's say when we go to conventions and things like that, and everybody's sort of like looking over their shoulders. The older guys looking over their shoulders to see who the young up and comers are. And the young guys are always looking, saying like, okay, who's going to retire next so I can take his job, right? And so like, you guys don't know what you're doing, right? And I'm just kind of like doing my thing, like, because I'm not an establishment guy. I kind of different route, but so you learn. You got to do what's right for your people. I don't need to be the rabbi for Klal Yisrael. I need to be the rabbi for my congregation. So
That's the thing about us in particular. You asked Shmuel, like, oh, what does someone say when Morgan says he knows you, and it's not just my father-in-law, but like I say, like,
No, somebody else too.
I say, like, there aren't that many. We're alike. We're all alike. I said, Sam, Shmuel, I don't want to call you rabbis, so we're alike. And look, at the end of the day, that's who it's an affinity group. We're naturally aligned. Sam, you said our communities they're different. They're different. Great Neck is different than Scarsdale than Livingston, but we're alike. We have the same kind of hashkafa. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We have the same kind of outlook on, like, we want to make an impact and do it right in a normal, real human way. And all of that stuff works. Like you said, I remember Shavuos. What was it? Shavuos time or Lag BaOmer? You did a Birkas HaGomel. Remember you did like a mass Birkas HaGomel for people who had COVID or something, Shmuel, right?
I did a Lag BaOmer, like a Zoom Gomel event. Yeah. For all the people who had COVID.
So I did that around Shavuos or something like that. And it was beautiful. It was amazing. And like you were saying, by the way, bar and bat mitzvahs, I wanted to throw out an idea because this is not just to help the future. Great idea. We came up with an idea, about us really, but he's running with it, which is great. We're doing for all those who had a bar bat mitzvah during COVID, we're having a big Simcha Kiddush, like actually Shabbos Chanukah. And so anyone could, jump in, and the kids who want to speak, usually our minhag is that, the boys will speak during davening, girls will speak, after davening, whatever. If anyone wants to speak, had a chance to speak, or didn't have a chance to speak because they had a small neighborhood minyan, here, sign up, you get a 2-3 minutes of our Torah, and we're putting together kind of a log of, of each Shabbos and, each Shabbos to give them that forum.
Yeah, we had a baby kiddush. All the babies born during COVID, during the summer, we had one big gala kiddush, and everybody, whatever, it was a beautiful thing. Everybody finally got to celebrate, which how important the kiddush is for a baby girl.
Wait, do you not have kiddush? You don't have kiddush yet in shul?
We did. It took us a long time until we did. We're still outdoors. Our kiddushes are still outdoors.
Our kiddush is outdoors also. Our kiddush. What about you, Sam?
We're transitioning.
We're inside.
Got it. Yeah.
We've had a few events where people had made outdoor kiddushes, but we're inside. Everything's inside now. And it's funny, a small thing that I just popped into my head now. Talk about positives after COVID. Can you remember the first time after all this that you shook somebody's hand? I remember specifically when it was, and it was like almost taken aback. Like, are you ever like watching TV? I mean, Chas v'shalom, we shouldn't watch television straight, but imagine if you were watching a television show or movie and you see people like, you're like, no, stop, don't touch each other, it's COVID. And the first time, and that made you realize is how much human beings crave personal interaction. And the handshake has taken on a whole new meaning. When you say good Shabbos to somebody, it really means something different now to me. And even if there's still people who are fist bumping or elbowing or whatever chicken wing things that they're doing, I look, I guess it's one of those things that you take for granted. You do it all the time, but here we are. So
much of this was like relearning all of these things, like, and also watching how we ourselves, how anxious were we about COVID? How anxious were we about handshaking? And then once I did my first handshake, and I'm like, I could never have imagined doing that again, but now I'm doing it again. And then this other person can't imagine ever doing it again. But like, I promise you'll get there. I was the same. We're all living through this absolutely unique experience all at the same time. And I can't think of another experience in my life like this, that we're all learning, everybody at their own pace, everybody's adapting at their own pace. And unfortunately or unfortunately, we're in the middle of managing all of the people at the same time, trying to figure out as a community what we're going to become comfortable with all together. But it's been super instructive to like watch that process happen. I don't know what you do, like if you have the Good Shabbos line coming up. So you kind of get a sense. People are they clenching? Are they hand out? And very often there's like the awkward. I happen to love fist bumping. I wish fist bumping would stay. First of all, you get both hands. So you guys to your left. I got that. I got a left fist.
I heard actually this past shop is a great handshake story. So there's a famous tshuva in Igris Moshe and it's based on a shul in the southern part of Long Island in the South Shore. And the child of the main player is actually a member of your shul, Rabbi Yismach. And the minhag is that if you get an aliyah, you had to shake the rabbi's hand. And there were people who were bregus, which ultimately led to a breakaway. So the person who asked for Moshe the Shiloh said, is a person, can he get an aliyah if he has yahrzeit, if he doesn't want to shake the rabbi's hand? So Moshe wrote back, he said, not only do you not have to give him an aliyah, he says he's not allowed to have an aliyah. Not allowed to have an aliyah because you don't shake, that's nimus, that's the manner of the shul. You can't violate that. Now the side story the funny thing is that when the person who wrote the Shalom, when they published the tshuva, they wrote the wrong name. They wrote Yitzchak instead of Yisrael. So for his 75th birthday, his family, who happens to be in clothing production, they made T-shirts that had the tshuva written with his name on it like that. Anyway, so in the same shul, I just heard recently that there was somebody who was an anti-vaxxer, and the shul has a very a strict, like, if you're not vaxxed, you can't have part of, you have to mask, whatever. Didn't wear a mask, got an aliyah somehow, and then he went dafka to shake the rabbi's hand, and the rabbi's like, no, I don't want to shake your hand. So it's like, it's the reverse shot. Like, what do you do then?
Goes around, comes around. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually didn't. It's funny. I get you guys said it right. Like, I actually didn't think we'd go. I was like, oh, I like this elbow thing. This is nice. I don't think. I remember saying, like, I don't think the handshaking is coming back. The truth is, I'm a hugger. So I would always say like, all right, no germs, we're good, or whatever. I'm like, but yeah, it's very interesting.
Hugging's coming back, John. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not sure if that's coming back.
We'll see. We're full on hugging.
We all are. In Scarsdale,
we're hugging.
Yeah, we all are. We all are. You guys, maybe in Greenwich, you guys just don't like each other that much.
Could be. We're too. I don't know.
I have every week after the president of the shul makes announcements and he steps down, we give ourselves like a high five, a hug. And a president of the shul was here for a simcha, and he came to me afterwards. He's like, "Where's my hug? I don't get a hug on the people. What's going on?" He was actually jealous. It's good. It's good to it's good to feel close to Balabata. It's good to also have distance, but it's good to feel close. You do with that what you like.
Remember the first time we got together in person since like COVID? Remember we were doing like we'd hang out, online a little bit on Zoom or whatever, and then we got together. Remember?
Yes.
We went La Marée outdoors. Because my wife would only let me go outdoors. It was a very big shadow whether I could go or not. You guys were always okay, Sam, to go. Were you okay to go initially? You were good. You were good. Yeah.
John was late.
And then the guys didn't want to set us up outside. Remember, the La Marée guys are giving us the.
I called. I had a reservation. And then we went more recently to Tabernacles. So Baruch Hashem, you were allowed indoors, and you were late. We had, but you know what? I think we closed the restaurant because we were just wait. We out ate and outlasted the Hasidic guys next to us. They had like the giant tomahawk steak. They're busy taking pictures of it instead of eating it. They were like,
I think they were talking about their pulpits as well. I think that was the conversation for the evening. Listen, there's so much to talk about because we have all these stories because everybody's a story. And everybody constantly has. I remember at one point, somebody defined this so well for me the whole past year and a half, where after he got vaccinated, this person was very, very mocked that he wasn't coming to shul or anything like that. And then after he got the vaccine, so I said, so like, this is great. You're immune. You're immune. This is before Delta and all of the Spakos, etc. I said, you're immune. He said, but I'm not immune from Mishagas. And so, like, he still had his shtick and he still had his thing. And there's so much of that. People adapting in their own way and people reacting completely unique to them. And I don't know where your shuls are at with this. We're not out. We're definitely not out. I know other communities, COVID is a far distant memory. And it's interesting because the way they're living, you would think that would be like a visual aid for communities who are not there yet to see, hey, look, they've been pretty okay for about a year. You don't find that. People need to deal with this themselves. They need to develop that comfort themselves. And until that happens, I don't know when it will. We're still living part of this. That's what I
Yeah, no,
find out
so,
of it, yeah.
but you reminded me, I was going to say a few minutes ago, which was that what the communities, what people sort of want from us or need from us is the ability to engage with this stuff and to show and to try to help and model and preach like what's normal. How do we move forward? I've had, unfortunately, in my pulpit life, I've had some major stuff, like tragedy type of communal stuff. And I found that like the community looks to the leadership, to the rabbis, like, okay, usher us through this, usher us through the mourning experience, usher us through the recovery experience, right? Because when is it appropriate to feel X or when is it appropriate to feel Y? And I think in COVID in particular, we're all dealing with that. And they really are looking for us, what's normal? And I think for me personally, I could say, I'd probably speak for you guys too, like when we have that placed on us, to be able to have a reality check from you guys, right? And be like, yeah, that's normal. Yeah, that is crazy when a person says X, Y, or Z, if a person jumps, that is crazy. Or that, oh, I get it, I hear. It's really helpful to be able to sort of have that and give us that sort of mind check and move forward, with our kahila and be kind of like the best leaders that we could be. So it's like, yeah.
And that's the hard part because, trying to find that sort of space where you can cover everybody or as many people as possible. People on the extreme edges, I think we're never going to get in any situation, COVID or not. But trying to have that broad reach, that big umbrella, and look, I thank God there are places that we can turn to also, besides one another. Like Hamudim, for instance. That's a great resource where could have things like this, or we can even just talking about it. I feel better. What about you? But also, I'll say this, that Jonathan can relate that the fact, and they can't relate, but both Shmuel and I, we lost parents. We were in Avelis during this, and almost, I don't know if you had, it was much worse when you had your loss, Shmuel, because it was like the height.
I had no
people
shiva.
at the Levaya, you had nothing, right?
I had nothing.
I remember speaking to you on Erev Shabbos then, and but I remember like you guys brought me a lot of comfort. Even though we had a shiva and I had shul and I had kaddish and whatever, but at certain times, I guess in our position, you can't feel like you even have the ability to mourn fully because you're too busy like taking care of other people. I don't know if you felt that, Shmuel. So it's like let me celebrate my simcha, let me have more my avelos. So that's why this, going back to the word safe space, this is very, very helpful for me. As I'm navigating through it. So, and I'm not one to have feelings. So.
We know that. Yeah, that was very unique. That was very different. But there was value in that too. People be discovering what a simcha means. People be discovering what you really need for Avelos for it to be meaningful. Or how desperately we really do need people. A lot of these lessons, I hope they stick. I don't think the backyard weddings are coming back, but that hasn't been my sense so far. Things have pretty much reverted right back to normal. But we'll see. Hopefully, at least we've internalized some lessons that we'll be able to share with our kids, and our communities will be able to share with others as well. You hope a once-in-a-lifetime event has a once-in-a-lifetime impact. You hope, and maybe there's more of it than we even realize.
Yeah.
Small weddings,
Yeah.
right? Well,
I can talk to you about that. yeah. But you're
did a
right.
wedding last week, 150 people, amazing.
The takeaway is like gravity. There's gravity that brings things down to earth. There's a gravity that brings people together. People want to be together. People need to be together. And Mirza Hashem.
How was your bar mitzvah, by the way? You made a bar mitzvah last week. I made a bar mitzvah this past Shabbos. It was the fullest the shul has been in close to 2 years. And everybody was commenting. Everybody was commenting about it.
It was amazing. Wait,
and they loved it, right?
They loved it. It was amazing. It was the fullest. Also, Rabbi, I haven't been to shul in 2 years, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe they weren't there for 5 years either. But no, I'm just kidding. They're all there. Here's the question. Did you acknowledge it? Did you acknowledge how full shul was?
I started my drasha, which was weird because like there's never been like I'm the rabbi and the kid's dad, right? Like it's an
Yeah,
awkward position to be
It's
in.
your first,
I
right?
started by saying I had forgotten that we had this many seats in this room. Like that was my opening line. Like it was packed, total capacity, and it was just so nice. Like there was this overflow. All the talking was back. The decorum was terrible, but you know what? In a way,
Baruch
I'm
Hashem.
like, this is great. This is good. I missed that problem. I missed having
So-
that problem. Okay, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that next week. But it was having people together.
It's a
was
good
amazing.
problem to have.
I'll just tell you, Ivadavka didn't say anything. I didn't comment how full it was because I didn't want to ruin it. I didn't want to scare anyone. I was just like, all right, this is normal. Like, it's a show.
That's the Hasidic guy in you with Ein Hara. That's what you're worried about, always. So.
You didn't want to freak
Anyway,
anybody
look,
out.
guys, keep fighting a good fight. You know what? I'm glad we have one another, and I'm glad we're able to express this, even for others to benefit. So, Mom, thanks for watching, and I'm really working. And no, really, guys, I really appreciate your the Chaverschaft, and I appreciate your understanding, your professionalism, and for bringing us together in all these different ways. So we should just continue for many, many years to come in good
Amen.
health.
Amen.
Hey,
Amen.
Thank you guys.
Amen.
Thank you guys.